So this is the RG557, Anbernic's follow-up to the RG556, which I actually called their best handheld at the time. Now they've made a few solid upgrades here, and a few weird choices too. Now let's go ahead and take a look to see if this thing is worth picking up, or if you're actually better off sticking with what you may already have. Now I do want to thank the team over at Anbernic for sending this over for review, but as always they don't get to see the video ahead of time and there's no script approval, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Now in the box you're going to get the usual stuff: the handheld, screen protector, some wipes, USB-C charging cable, and a user manual. Nothing new here. Now my unit actually came in transparent purple, and while it looks awesome, especially with the RGB lighting, it's also a total fingerprint magnet. So if you're picky about smudges, just keep that in mind that you may actually prefer the solid color option instead. Now the RG557 feels really solid in the hands. Size-wise, it's what I'd like to call like a mid-size handheld. It's larger than something like the Retroid Pocket 5, but smaller than something like a Steam Deck or a Nintendo Switch. It's got the same nice subtle curves on the back that you would have seen on the 556 model, and it's super comfortable to hold for long gaming sessions. Build quality is good overall, nothing creaky or cheap feeling. Now the plastic does have a tiny bit of grip to it, but it still leans much more smooth than it does textured. And it doesn't feel premium, but it also doesn't really feel like cheap plastic either. I'd say it lands somewhere kind of in the middle of the two. Internally, the RG557 is running a Dimensity 8300 processor, 12 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM, and 256 gigabytes of internal storage. Now this is definitely a big step up from the T820 chip in the 556. Now the screen is still the 5.5 inch 1080p AMOLED display, and it looks just as good. It's sharp, the colors are punchy, and the brightness is solid. And I have been playing mostly indoors, but even near a window it holds up just fine. Alright, so I've got to say it, I really don't like the thumbsticks on this thing. They're tiny and they don't have very much travel, and honestly it just feels a little bit awkward to use. Definitely not what I was hoping for, especially since I was expecting the same sticks that they included in the 556, or even better yet, some of the better sticks that they have in other devices like the 406H. Now I've seen some people saying that retail units are going to come with some sort of stick cap to help with the comfort, but I haven't really seen anything official from Anbernic themselves confirming that. So if that's a deal breaker for you, you may want to hold off until there's a little bit more clarity. But if you're someone who's just going to purchase it anyways, you may want to consider grabbing some of those stick caps as well. The D-pad actually feels fairly good. It does have a rubber membrane feel, which I usually like, but it's glossy, which makes it feel a little bit cheap. So it's definitely not my favorite D-pad that I've ever used. The face buttons are soft and quiet, which I appreciate, and the shoulder buttons are clicky, and the triggers are analog, which is great for driving games or anything that's pressure sensitive, and their overall sensitivity feels good. I also think that because you're dealing with a more powerful device, you need to have those analog triggers in there anyways. Now this handheld runs Android 14, and out of the box it's loaded up with apps. In fact, there are so many apps. A bunch of them are cracked versions of paid emulators, which is fine I guess, but they are usually outdated, and there isn't an easy way to update them without re-downloading them to the device in the first place. And along with all of the emulators bundled in, there's an app called RixelHK, and it basically gives you access to a huge library of games right on the device, with the ability to effectively point and click to download whatever it is you want. Now look, we all know what people are doing with these handhelds, and I've always believed that people can and should do whatever they want with their hardware. The issue with an app like this is just how easy they make it to pirate content. It's all right there in your face, there's no need to do any real work. And it's not something I'd personally use, but just wanting to put it out there in case that does matter to you. Now the RG button launches their custom front end, but you can swap back to the standard Android at any time. Personally, I just like to stick with Android and just set it up how I like it with some sort of custom front end. Now you can switch to Xbox style button layouts as well, and thankfully it does remember your preference after a reboot. That's something that the 556 didn't do. Now let's go ahead and talk performance, starting with emulation. Now I tested a range of systems from lower end up to more demanding stuff like PS2, GameCube, Wii U, and the Nintendo Switch. And for most of the lower end consoles, I was very easily able to run the games at around 3x or higher resolution, depending on the title and emulator. And in many cases, I could have gone higher, but I was limited by the resolution of the screen itself, so I didn't feel it was necessary. That said, all of the more demanding games on the more demanding consoles definitely needed to drop down to native or 1.5x to stay smooth. And it certainly wasn't flawless across the board, but for a handheld in this price range, it did actually hold up pretty well. The Dimensity 8300 chip does have plenty of raw power, but keep in mind it uses the Mali drivers that can cause compatibility issues with certain emulators. Now you'll probably run into some odd behavior here and there, especially with things like PS2, GameCube, Nintendo Switch, Wii U, or any of the more demanding emulators. Now I'll let the gameplay footage speak for itself, and I've got the FPS counter on screen wherever possible so you can get a sense of how things are running in real time.
From Cold Chiller Boulevard.
Now speakers are downward firing and they get loud, but the sound is a little bit muffled, not unusable, just not impressive. The fan does a really good job too keeping the system cool. It kicks in when needed and doesn't get super loud. You can actually tweak the fan speed manually as well, which is a nice touch. And there is a USB-C video out, but I haven't tested it enough to say how reliable it is, but I can confirm it does work out of the box, as you guys can see here. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up with some pros and cons. On the pro side, it has a great AMOLED display, solid performance up to GameCube and PS2, super comfortable grip for long play sessions, Android 14 with customization options, active cooling, and a decent battery life. On the con side, the analog sticks feel undersized for this form factor. The software needs a little bit of cleanup because it does feel like a bloated experience with all the pre-installed apps. It's got limited compatibility with higher-end emulators due to the Mali drivers, and the audio is loud, but it's not crisp. Now overall, I'd say that the RG557 is a nice step forward, but it's not a perfect one. If you're mainly looking to emulate up to PS2, maybe stream some games here and there, it's a strong pick. If you want flawless Switch or Wii U support, this is definitely not the device for you. Now as of now, this thing goes for around $250, but keep in mind that's just the list price. That doesn't include things like taxes, shipping, or any other surprise fees at the door if you're importing them. And yeah, with tariffs shifting around lately, final pricing could bounce a bit depending on where you're ordering from. Just something to keep in mind before hitting the buy button. Now I'd love to hear what you guys think of the RG557 in the comments down below, and if there's any specific systems that you want to see tested on this, drop those down below too. But that is pretty much all I've got for you guys in this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll speak to you guys again real soon.